Think about it. Jurors are like finicky people. I have seen some OJ-like stuff in my life. I'm joined now by a couple of people who know a lot about the importance of DNA to a case. Joseph Scott Morgan is a forensic analyst, and he is a certified death investigator. He is also the distinguished scholar of applied forensics at Jacksonville State University. And Tracy Walder knows a thing about crime and justice as well. She's a former special agent with the FBI. They're both kind enough to join me on this, I say, auspicious evening, because anything that has to do with the Kohberger case and a deadline, I'm here for it, guys. So let me start with you. Joseph Scott Morgan, the first thing the defense is going to do when it gets its package, whether it's a FedEx, a brown envelope, a giant stack, a crate, or a big file in their inbox, what are they going to look for right off the bat?
Well, I can tell you this. There will be a person present within that space that they have retained that will have a certain expertise in forensic DNA analysis. They will physically probably be there, I would imagine, going over every bit of this. I don't know how much of this they could share electronically if it's dumped in an electronic package. They might have the person there, to go one-on-one with them, to go through this step by step. And, I got to tell you, Ash, thinking about this for, these many months, what do they have to go on? And it's like you had mentioned, the knife sheath, when you begin to think about what was deposited there on that little snap right here, I think probably under the leading edge is the things being actuated. This whole case rests on that from a physical evidence standpoint. Now, all the other electronic stuff, tracking the car and all that, separate set here. But what we're talking about is the DNA and the deposition of it. And, they're going to have somebody there right on their hip to walk them through every piece of this evidence.
Tracy, I have heard people say that the only way this guy is not going down for these 4 murders is if they can find something, anything, to get that DNA tossed. So I'm going to get you take off your law enforcement hat for a hot minute and tell me where there might be a pitfall that they can mine. And I don't think there is, but just where there could be.
Well, I agree with you. I don't think that there's necessarily a pitfall, but in kind of brainstorming what could be potentially perceived as one is early on that DNA evidence was actually sent to the state, and then the state sent it to a lab in Texas. The lab then built a profile, and then the FBI stepped in, and that the FBI used that profile that was built by the lab to then do their genetic comparisons. So I think if there's any kind of, pitfall, although again, I don't think that there is one, I think this is really what they're going to hone in on. This is just my hypothesis, but to me, that sounds like really what they're going to focus on. And I think they're also going to look at how the FBI handle the evidence in their chain of evidence sheets that come back. I think they're really going to do a very, very deep look at that as well.
That is my next question. So, Joe, I'm going to get you to field this one because DNA, when we first started to, it became common parlance through OJ in the 90s. And then sort of in the 2000s, we all thought that if you have DNA, you got them. It's just foolproof. And then people started to realize that DNA is only as good as the people who handle it. So what Tracy said is that chain of custody. Tell me where something could have gone sideways in the chain of custody with the teensy-tiny sample that they got off that knife sheath, Joe.
Yeah, it's going to come down to operator error, as they used to say, relative to computers. The devil is in the details with the steps that they apply. Who's in the chain relative to accountability for this evidence? How many hands did this pass through? Obviously, when we begin to think about the sheath itself, you have any number of players that are at the scene. Is there accountability directly linking back to the individual that recovered that sheath? How many hands did it pass from the scene back to the lab where they were able to actually harvest this sample of DNA? And then you think about the FBI that was involved in it in this lab down in Texas. If there's anywhere they're going to poke holes in this, it's not necessarily going to be the science, Ash. It's going to be human error along the way. And they are going to look at this with an incredibly intense light shining on it, they being the defense, because any kind of chink in the armor here could be doomsday for them.
Thank you for watching. Go to newsnationnow.com to find NewsNation on your television provider. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.